What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Whales and Locks. And in today's video, we're going to be looking at three teams here seeded 6 or worse in this NCAA tournament that I believe ultimately have the best chance to make a run and get to a Final Four here. So the first team I want to talk about is number 7 seeded UConn. There's really two things that help this UConn team have a legitimate shot at a Final Four run. We'll start first with the part they can control ultimately, and that's their backcourt, led by James Bouknight and RJ Cole. Deep runs in March are all about great guard play, and that's exactly what this UConn team possesses. Both Bouknight and Cole combined to put up 31.3 points per game, and both shoot it well from the free throw line, both above 77%, a very valuable piece come NCAA tournament time. Bouknight was injured for a good portion of the early season, and that's one of the huge reasons for UConn's struggles out of the gate, an eventual 7 seed here that I do believe doesn't equate to this team's true talent level. When Bouknight plays, this is a completely different team, as in the 14 games he's played this season for this team, they're 11-3 with their 3 losses coming to Creighton by 2-3 and to a healthy Villanova team by 8. The other part that favors UConn in this is their potential matchups down the road. If we look at their round of 32 matchup potentially versus Alabama, there's no doubt Alabama's an uber-talented team. However, it was just 8 years ago that head coach Nate Oates was a high school basketball coach. This is the first true college success Oates has had, so I could see the pressure getting to Oates here a little bit. Next would potentially be Texas, a team that saw 2 of their best players get into a near fight mid-game a few games back, so we don't know if that is something that could boil over in a crunch time moment of this tournament. And finally, the 1 seed in Michigan, without arguably their best player in Isaiah Livers for the entire tournament. Michigan will be a completely different team without him, as in the only game he hasn't played all season, they did lose. Overall, we're looking at a potential 7-seeded UConn team led by Bouknight, who has some Kemba Walker, Shabazz Napier qualities in him. Against what I think is a depleted region. Ultimately, that I think they have the opportunity here to be a dark horse Final Four team. So the second team I want to look at is the 8-seeded LSU Tigers. When we look at the Tigers, this is going to sound very similar to the reasoning for UConn, but I actually think these guys have a better opportunity here than UConn to get to the Final Four. This LSU team, for starters, is so dangerous offensively. They rank 5th according to KenPom in adjusted offensive efficiency, and they average an absurd 82.1 points per game, which puts them 13th in the NCAA. I think my favorite part about this LSU team is the level of consistency they possess on the offensive end. Some teams are great at putting up 80-point nights and then throwing up a dud of 60 every now and then. That's not what you want for a team that needs to win 4 straight to get to a Final Four. This season, in 27 games of action, this team has scored under 70 points in a game just twice. That is an incredible feat of consistency that they can night in and night out put out numbers. Who specifically is putting up those numbers? Well, for starters, perhaps the best scoring freshman in the country, Cam Thomas, puts up 22.6 points per game and shoots 88% from the free throw line. LSU's second and third leading scorers, Trendon Watford and Javonte Smart, put up 16.7 and 15.9 points per game respectively, as this is arguably the best scoring trio in the country. Now to the matchups. If LSU gets by St. Bonaventure, again, they'll see an Isaiah Liverless Michigan, as I mentioned before. Such a huge loss to their team. I don't want to go into too much detail as it is the same region, as I highlighted UConn's teams that they were having to play, but Texas and Alabama could see some problems from this LSU team. Overall, LSU is one of the top offenses in the country who is incredibly consistent scoring the ball, and I do believe they also have the opportunity here to be a dark horse Final Four team as an 8 seed. So the third and final team I want to look at here is the USC Trojans, the number 6 seed. This has truly been a theme throughout this video, but it's the key to success in winning multiple games in a row to get to a Final Four: star power and the matchups. USC has an absolute star on the inside in Evan Mobley, who's the likely number 2 pick in the draft behind Cade Cunningham. The man does it all for his team, averaging 16.8 points per game, 8.6 boards, 2.2 assists, 3 blocks, while shooting 58.4% from the field and 31.4% from 3. This is an absolute do-it-all machine that few teams are capable of throwing a tall, athletic big against him with. I also love at any given time on the floor, any of USC's 5 players can knock down a 3, as no player who gets starter-level minutes shoots it worse than 31% from 3, and 3 players shoot it better than 39% from 3. A good inside-outside game mix with Evan Mobley and shooters on the outside make this team so dangerous. The other aspect we obviously have to look at is the bottom of this East bracket. It's an absolute crapshoot. Looking at Kansas, Iowa, Oregon, and USC here, the 4 likely teams to advance to the round of 32. We look at Kansas. They're going to be without David McCormick, their best player, for their foreseeable future. In the one matchup that USC saw Oregon this season, USC beat them handily, 72-58. Iowa will also struggle to throw a guy against Evan Mobley, as Luka Garza is just too slow, and Keegan Murray will probably have to guard him, but he doesn't even start, so there really isn't a great matchup for him on Iowa. The obvious team that is difficult to avoid, the Zags. But the Zags haven't seen a quality tournament team outside of BYU since Virginia 2 months ago. The Zags love to flip the switch in the second half, and it's worked for them in the conference schedule against bad opponents. But what happens when they ultimately play a quality USC opponent? Can they still turn it on then? I guess we'll see, but overall, USC's star power and ability to shoot from deep, mixed with this poor bottom half of the East, ultimately gives USC a really good shot here to be a dark horse in the Final Four. So there you have it. Those are 3 teams in UConn, LSU, and USC who I think have a legitimate shot here to get to a Final Four. So if you did enjoy this content and would like to see more things like this in the future, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.